You or the Ripple team talked with members of Congress on that point? Are you anticipating any sort of bills to be tabled in the next few months?
So Ripple has been engaging with Congress for all throughout the last administration, all throughout the prior administration. We are very policy focused. And yes, have we continued those conversations with the new Congress? Yes. This is the most crypto-friendly Congress we will ever see. And we are in contact and with discussions. Again, this is nothing new. This is a continuation of discussions we've always had as to standing up, again, real world framework for the use, adoption of crypto in the US that protects consumers, protects the integrity of the market, and keeps bad actors out. We're not going to do it alone. I think the industry needs to come together and cooperate with Congress. Ultimately, Congress owns the policy. The industry doesn't own the policy. But I think we can get there. And I do think that we are going to see some really good legislative process this year, maybe even a statute signed this year, both in terms of what we call a market structure bill, something that covers all aspects of how a crypto market would need to be regulated in the US, which would include everything from stablecoins to potentially decentralized finance. So there's a lot to do.
Hey, what's going on, Bull Runners? Welcome back to the channel. Imagine this. You're ready to make your next big move in crypto, but the headlines are throwing you curveballs left and right. A major court ruling just shook things up. New regulations are being whispered about behind closed doors, and one company is completely flipping its strategy to chase Ethereum's potential. Sounds chaotic, right? But here's the thing. Staying ahead in crypto isn't about guessing. It's about knowing exactly what these headlines mean for your wallet. And today we're diving into massive stories that could change how you trade, invest, and plan for your future. From Judge Torres's gavel slamming down on Ripple's plans, to talks of game-changing crypto frameworks, to a bold pivot into Ethereum staking. And these are updates that you need to know about to stay in the game. So stick with me, because at the end of this video, I'm going to be dropping an exclusive sneak peek into a secret crypto community that's helping both beginners and experts level up their portfolios. Plus, we will be heading over to X to find out all the breaking news that's happening in the crypto world today. We will also be jumping into the charts for XRP, looking for our next level of support and resistance. Plus, we'll be looking at our long-term and short-term momentum waves. We'll be heading over to Forex Factory to check out all of the red folder news that you need to know about. The most important one today is unemployment claims, and so much more in today's video. And if you are like most people, where you don't have the opportunity to spend hours a day in the crypto news like we do for you here on this channel every single day, make sure you subscribe right now. And if you are still feeling bullish about this current bull run, let me know by commenting 777 down below. First things first, we're going to head over to CoinMarketCap, check out the overall health of the crypto market. Today, we have a market cap of $3.27 trillion, total market cap down 1.23%.
We just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University. Just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now.
We did have $107 billion of trading volume in the last 24 hours. Fear and greed index back to the neutral zone. We are currently sitting in the 50s. Altcoin season index 19 out of 100. So it is still considered Bitcoin season. As we can see, the Bitcoin ETF trackers had 3 consecutive days to the upside. Very strong days this week. When we zoom out to the yearly, we take a look at this week, already over $1.4 billion of inflows into Bitcoin. We take a look at Ethereum. Their daily inflows are tapering off a tad here. We take a look at the weekly chart, and we can see $232 million worth of inflows into the ETFs for Ethereum. Top 6 cryptos by total market cap. Number 1, Bitcoin, obviously at $107,000 today. Number 2, Ethereum at $24.29. Number 3, Tether at $1. XRP at number 4 at $2.12. Having a pullback today, unfortunately, on some bad news. We'll be covering BNB number 5, $642. Solana at number 6, $141. Heading over to Forex Factory today, numbers did come out. The final GDP numbers quarter over quarter was forecasted at 0.2%. It did come out at a minus 0.5%. As we can see here, it says actual greater than forecast is good for the currency. And the US economy shrank at 0.5% annual pace from January through March as President Trump's trade war disrupted. So GDP numbers not so great today. However, really positive numbers right here on unemployment claims. The forecast was 244,000. We came in at a 236,000 number. So less unemployment claims than were expected. Very great. Usually extremely positive for the crypto markets, but unfortunately, the GDP numbers hitting us pretty hard here. As we saw in the intro of the video, Stuart Alderati, there's been a lot of talk about how Ripple is being turned away from the government by Senator Loomis. But as we can see here, Stuart Alderati says they are definitely in talks with the government to bring crypto frameworks for stablecoins and DeFi. And as we know right now, the RLUSD is having a massive push to try to take a ton of market share away from the other stablecoins. With the new up-and-coming stablecoin legislation, the Genius Act, USDT is going to be having an issue because they will not pass the guidelines set within that framework right now. Obviously, they can make some changes where RLUSD can come in and really take some market share there. But the most important thing we need to talk about immediately, because this did just break right now, Judge Torres has denied Ripple and the SEC joint motion for an indicative ruling. Now, what this means is Judge Torres is messaging in the ruling that private deals do not erase public judgments, and her judgment still serves the public interest. So basically, Judge Torres coming in and saying, hey, my ruling on this actual court case was this, and you guys can't just go behind my back, try to make a secret public deal in a cigar coffee room, and then it goes away. That's not what happens here. The parties do not have the authority to agree not to be bound by a court's final judgment. They have not come close to doing so here. And if they want out, she said, they can withdraw their appeals and let the judgment stand or go through the appeals process to challenge. Now, remember, the judgment was on institutional sales. Ripple could be having a little bit of trouble here, ladies and gentlemen. So they don't want this judgment to stand. They want the judgment to be erased. We do know that when it comes to retail sales, Ripple is completely in the clear, no problem. But they do have a little bit of issues when it comes to the big institutional sales. So with that being said, they need to go through the appeals process to challenge the actual court's final judgment, or they can just go along with it. Now, if you're Ripple, in this case, you know you can't have that settlement, you can't have that judgment against you. It needs to be completely clear. I mean, they could move forward with it if they wanted to, but as we know, if this is going to be the new world currency, XRP is going to be taking over the entire world, there cannot be some sort of cloud above the head of the company that is currently ruling the world for the financial markets. Cointelegraph also says here, Judge Torres denies Ripple and SEC's motion to amend final judgment, blocking a fast-track $50 million settlement and keeping institutional XRP sales under legal constraints. So this is a problem here, ladies and gentlemen. Not a problem in the fact that it can't be fixed and settled and go through the appeals process, but more of a problem for us wanting to go to the moon as soon as possible with XRP. This is going to drag out a little longer than we had anticipated. But we do have, obviously, negative news coming out today about the Ripple case, but there's actually several positive things I would love to share with you today. So Aon has partnered with Ripple and will now use XRP and RLUSD on their Web3 mobile payment platform. Users can pay via Telegram app for purchase at common retail brands, initially with 20 million merchants in Southeast Asia, so in Africa and Latam. Also, when it comes to XRP, tokenized gold and silver, think XAU and XAG. Yes, why not on the XRP ledger?
In fact, one thing I want people to be thinking about is coming up in this next week is the stablecoin law that's coming out. Right. Now, what's interesting is that the stablecoins are actually a way to buy long-term treasuries because they're buying the 10-year and like USDC, USDT, that's a 10-year. But now what the stablecoin legislation is going to do is going to allow gold and silver to now be a part of a stablecoin. I believe that's a catalyst to see gold and silver launch up to new record highs right now. And so I'm pretty excited about that. Okay. But that is an answer that we're going to be seeing coming up. In fact,
So the new Genius bill, when it comes out and is launched, it's going to require stablecoins to buy treasury bills to be backed 1-to-1 with the US dollar for USDC, USDT, RLUSD, etc., right? They have to have the same exact amount of 10-year treasury bonds to represent the amount of value that that stablecoin holds, the market cap. So if it's 100 million market cap, they have to have 100 million in 10-year treasury bonds to represent that. However, they are potentially going to be launching gold and silver into that, which is phenomenal, actually, because then we've been talking about going back to the gold standard. This is essentially a way of going back to the gold standard, because when you're buying treasuries for the United States Treasury, it's a bond for 10 years. Like, people are pretty scared of what's going on in the United States for the next 10 years. Like, they're very volatile, but gold and silver, people are very excited about that. No matter what happens in the world, if something happens, gold and silver are useful, and they could actually continue to go up in value over time no matter what. So very exciting there. Obviously, we know the RLUSD really taking it to the next level, and that is on the XRP ledger. And as I said in the very beginning of this talk here, USDT does not comply with the Genius Act. So once the Genius Act, USDT is going to have to put several things in place to make sure that they show that they do hold the reserves that they do. Like, I just saw a report that USDT just invested in a soccer club, and that's not going to represent one-to-one with a treasury or gold-backed security. So very interesting to see how that plays out. Now, as we know, XRP's ETF has not officially launched in the United States yet, but take a look at this. Just in CME's XRP futures hit $542 million in volume for the first month, with 45% of trades outside of North America. So the XRP futures that did go live are starting to bring in tons of volume, which is really exciting for XRP. Now, these are the leveraged futures, but $542 million worth of volume is a really impressive number, considering it was just the first month. And another video coming out of Robbie Mitchink, who currently works for BlackRock, but he used to work at Ripple, as we covered in our video just a couple of days ago. But take a listen to this. It says, reminds me of when Larry Fink told CNBC his clients had no interest in crypto before he issued the ETF. They're not going to say a word about XRP until they can offer it to their clients.
Robbie, let's talk a bit more about the ETF side of things. So there's the people are talking about Solana ETFs. You know, people are also talking about building baskets of companies within the crypto space to get exposure as well. Now, what are the kind of new products you expect to pop up in the ETF space that are linked to crypto?
Yeah, well, I think our focus and our strategy is going to be driven first and foremost and overwhelmingly by where we see the client demand for solutions. So, you know, we're constantly having dozens of conversations a week with clients of all types. And I think still today, the vast majority of interest certainly is Bitcoin, a little bit in Ethereum. And then in some cases, you do hear other assets pop up, but certainly less than the other two. I think there's some things that we've done elsewhere as a firm, particularly in the tokenization space, where we worked with a number of these other blockchain protocols, you know, based on some of the value proposition elements that these protocols offer. So that's exciting to us from a technology perspective.
And in a very positive light for Ethereum holders out there, we know we've been following along with the ETFs. Ethereum has been pumping as far as volume coming in, price not pumping, of course, but we continue to hear people, large institutions getting massively involved into Ethereum. But take a look at this. Bit Digital announces a strategic transition to become a pure play Ethereum staking and treasury company. Now, that doesn't mean that they're just buying Ethereum to hold as their treasury, which, you know, a lot of companies are doing the Bitcoin. Some are doing the Ripple. Some are doing the Solana. Some are doing the Ethereum. But take a listen to this here, guys. The firm holds 24,434 ETH and 417 Bitcoin, but plans to convert its Bitcoin holdings into Ethereum while winding down its mining operation. So Bit Digital, doing actual Bitcoin mining, is going to stop doing Bitcoin mining operations, sell all their Bitcoin to buy Ethereum. This is absolutely mind-blowing. We'll see how this plays out in the charts for Ethereum over time, but Bit Digital taking a massive leap here. They are on the NASDAQ as BTBT. So go take a look at Bit Digital and do some research on them. Where is Ethereum going in the future? They see it going up. Kraken secures a MiCA license in Ireland, unlocking regulated crypto assets to all EU states. Now, this is a very positive move for Kraken. As you know, they've done a phenomenal job in the United States, building their brand and building their exchange, but a lot of things going on in Europe. MiCA. Now, this MiCA thing also brings up a case for USDT, right? So we've been talking about USDT a lot in this video. They are also not MiCA compliant. In fact, they came out and straight up said, we're not even going to try to be MiCA compliant. So USDT, just be very careful out there. We got to continue to pay attention to what they're doing. How are they going to fix it? Because if the Genius Act passed and they're not going to be compliant in the United States, MiCA already passed and it's already active in the EU, and they say they don't want to be MiCA compliant. So USDT needs to come back around because it is a phenomenal company, a phenomenal business. They make a ton of money, but if they're not going to be used worldwide because of regulations, then they're in some serious trouble.
I just thought some of the big companies are going to be amazingly positioned. Microsoft is going to stay on it, and maybe today it's a $3 billion company, but let's say it doubles in 5 years, it could be 5 or 6 billion.
Oh, trillion.
Trillion, yeah, sorry, of course, trillion. Then we added Bitcoin. We thought of Bitcoin as a company. Today, I think Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And we're like, well, could it get to also 4 or 5 trillion? Obviously, Bitcoin's not a company. It'd be like saying if gold's a company, but I thought it was interesting as a new asset.
Yeah, right. Market cap.
Market cap, 2 trillion is so big.
You've been involved in Bitcoin.
You know, I've not gotten involved with Bitcoin, and I wake up every day at 3 a.m. and I'm like, why am I such an idiot? What have I been waiting for? Not being involved in it, and it just goes up and up. In the past, I think this is interesting. The retail investors, they were much faster at getting involved with Bitcoin than the institutional ones. And I always thought Bitcoin's amazing, but it's double or triple the volatility of the NASDAQ. NASDAQ's already pretty volatile. Why do I need to deal with this added volatility? Recently, Bitcoin, when it went down during the tariff, only went down as much as NASDAQ. So it seems the volatility as an asset class is coming down, which I thought was pretty interesting.
But given your sort of thesis, do you say to yourself, even at this point in the ball game, if you think it's going to double or triple and going to be part of the NASDAQ 100, if you were to think of it as a company?
Yes, I have to think about it.
That you should own it now?
Yes, I have to think about it now. Do I own it now? Do I own it tomorrow? In a few days? But every day, I do think, why do I not own it? And I think to be a good investor, it's not just like owning the obvious stock, but sometimes you have to change your mind and you have to just say, well, I made a mistake and I'm changing my mind, and maybe Bitcoin will do that.
How do you come up to that valuation? Is it as a percentage of gold's market cap or something?
So I thought like the market cap of the world, the net worth of the world is, I think, 450 to 500. True. Equities are, let's say, 120. Gold above and under the ground is 20. And then Bitcoin is 2 trillion. And I was like, okay, well, 2 trillion, let's say it represents 0.5% of the net worth of the world. Could it go to 1 or 2? Some people say, oh, Bitcoin's going to be 100 trillion. I'm like, okay, that's not, maybe a bit of an aggressive estimate, but could it double over a period of time? And then we talked about the de-dollarization of the world, the end of U.S. exceptionalism. So those would be some of the reasons.
Michael Saylor posting this video from Felipe Lafont on Bitcoin. Why do I not own it? I think a lot of people out there say that to themselves, right? They continue to see Bitcoin go up. Everyone thinks, oh, it's going to go back down to like $50,000, $60,000. Maybe it will, but probably should be holding some at this point, right? Not financial advice. Don't buy or sell any coins we talk about on this channel, but should have a diversified portfolio that owns Bitcoin. Also, big breaking news. After significant studying and keeping up with the president's vision to make the United States the crypto capital of the world, today I ordered great Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to prepare their businesses to count cryptocurrency as an asset for a mortgage. Now, it does have to be in an exchange such as Coinbase, a centralized exchange. But now, let's say you're holding $1 million worth of Bitcoin in an exchange. You can actually use that to show proof of reserves to get your mortgage for your new house that you would like to buy. So that's really exciting. We really are moving into the crypto world for sure. All right, so let's jump over to XRP in the charts. Our long-term momentum is still showing bearish below the zero line here, as we've been talking about Short-term momentum waves did start their turn to the upside. We have had a couple of days consecutively to the upside, 3 to be exact. Unfortunately, the third day did peter out and ended up giving us a lower level candle here. So on our daily charts, we've had consistent new lower highs, unfortunately, showing bearish market structure. If we continue this downward trend to the downside, we're going to be making a new lower low, potentially below this $1.90 level. So we got to keep this $1.90. Remember, that is the level that held as support on this bounce to the upside. Today could be a fluke. We obviously have some negative news that came out today and unfortunately pushed us to the downside. This news about potentially not getting our result in the XRP institutional coins case is pretty devastating, to be honest with you. Now, when we look at the hourly charts here and we go back to what we did about 3 days ago on the charting, looking at support and resistance levels. So we did push above this $2.15 level, and then we had some supply and demand zones that we got into. Unfortunately, as we talked about, we needed to break above this $2.22 level. We can see we wicked up into that level and rejected exactly off of our most pressing level, because we said if we can break through this $2.22, then we see an easy rise back to $2.30. Unfortunately, the bears stepped in, and then also bad news came out, and we've continued to drop. So what happened then? Well, we dropped back into this level of supply and demand. That was our really, really short-term supply and demand, and it held pretty good. Unfortunately, we just broke it today. So over the last couple of hours, these are hourly candles. We did break down below here. We also broke back below 215. Now, what we did talk about, though, this is important. After we broke above this 215 level, we did talk about there's probably a likelihood we're going to come back and retest this and then make the move to the upside. So right now, we did come retest it. Unfortunately, we dipped even below it, maybe swiping the liquidity of these hourly candles over here and pushing back to the upside. Right now, on our hourly charts, we are actually bearish. We broke below our zero line here, and it is bearish in the short term, but we just barely got there. So oftentimes, if you can see a quick, immediate rebound, a hard turn back, a V-shaped recovery, then we can get back above this. But you can see last time we broke below the zero line, which was back here on June 17th. We rode below the zero line with some little tiny pushes above and then back down. It was pretty devastating to pricing because we went from the levels here of $2.22 all the way back to $1.90. So right now on the hourly, not looking strong, looking bearish on that short term. We need to see a turnaround. However, on our 4-hour charts, we can see that we got back to our 4-hour 1100 exponential moving average and are bouncing off that level of support. We've had that level of support once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. We lost it here for that crazy drip down here to swipe up all that lower level liquidity, right immediately back up into these levels. So we'll keep an eye on that. So right now we are bouncing in this area. We are also bouncing up from these supply and demand zones. But what we're looking for, remember, we need to break above this 220. We're looking bullish wise. We need to break above this 222 so we can move up into the 230s. If we break and continue our downward momentum, we have support here at 208 to 205 for the XRP charts. That's going to be our short-term period. We can see on our 4-hour charts, we are bullish, unfortunately starting to make a crazy hard push to the downside. Short-term momentum has reset to 0. Mid-term momentum coming to the downside on the 4-hour. Take a look at the 12-hour. 12 hours maxing out on the midterm momentums. Long-term momentum waves having a hard turnaround here on the, this is not looking great on the 12-hour. Let's pull a fair value gap. So we do have a fair value gap that could bring price to fill this 12-hour fair value gap back into the $2.03 range. So we'll watch for those levels to the downside. 203, $1.90. However, if we start to break to the upside like we talked about, we did have really good unemployment claims numbers today. Typically, that's great for the economy. So we can be pushing back up to the positive side, 230. Right now, 12 hours looking bearish. Daily, it's still bearish below the zero line. Weekly continues to climb downward towards the zero line as well. But we do have 3 days and 10 hours left in this weekly candle. So we are starting a turnaround on the weekly charts. Remember, the weekly charts end on Sunday. So we had a ton of interference, which we did talk about. We do need to clear all of this, get an engulfing candle. If not, we have the bodied candles as support from April 7th. All right, so $1.90 support, 215 resistance, and then if we break through all this, the 243, but really the 230 is going to be our next level of resistance. So keep all that in mind. Looking at Bitcoin, weekly charts, very strong. Bullish engulfing candle versus last week's. Last week's candle bounced off the 10 exponential moving average. Very bullish there. We are making our move to the upside. The only negative thing, I've got to point it out, we have a crazy strong bearish divergence. We have prices continuing to climb high. We have our oscillator coming to the downside. But like I said, today's news, great news. Let's take a look at the daily charts. So the daily has been climbing. Take a look at this. Our Wolfpack indicator came, dipped below the 0 line, turned red, and then boom, right back into the green. That's what we talked about on the XRP charts when we looked at on the hourly. It could make a quick recovery. Short-term momentum, midterm momentum, swinging to the upside. We had great news in that jobs report, or unemployment claims report today. Great news for Bitcoin to the upside. GDP obviously didn't come out as great as we wanted, so that kind of puts a wrench in it. But we do have a resistance line coming to us at about 108,000. So we'll keep that in mind as price continues to push up to the upside. On the daily charts, looking strong for Bitcoin. 12-hour charts. 12-hour charts just broke back into the bullish territory. We do have momentum to the upside, petering out here. Let's look at the 4-hour. 4-hour short-term momentum starting a break. Short-term 1 hour is looking flat. And right here, we're breaking back to the 0 line. We could be seeing a nice turnaround here. So we're going to watch for this on this very, very short term. We're going to watch for price to push up into the zone of 109,000. If we can break 109, that's also a level right here that was a high that needs to be broke for market structure of 109 is perfect. And then obviously we're going to get into all this craziness in this level here, which will be a ton of resistance. On Ethereum. So Ethereum, let's take a look at the daily charts. Remember, we were tracking this potential massive bull flag to the upside. What's interesting about this pattern, we had this really great range developing here. It did break to the upside, swiped out all the liquidity to the upside, a dramatic drop to the downside, swiped all the liquidity there, and now recovering nicely back to our daily 1100 exponential moving average. Our long-term momentum on the daily has broken below the 0 line, but again, referencing back to Bitcoin, it also dipped and then ripped to the upside. So watch for Ethereum on the Wolfpack indicator. This dip, it needs to break back above. Also, positive news, short-term momentum, breaking back to the upside. Midterm momentum flat. So we need that midterm momentum wave to start to pull back up. Because look what happened last time. Short-term momentum, boom, cranked to the upside. Stayed, midterm momentum, cranked to the upside as well. Stayed at the top here. Midterm staying at the top. Short-term did a reset and then the massive pump. So right now, we got our short-term riding, building that momentum. Midterm needs to come up. Let's look at the 12-hour. 12-hour midterm momentum pumping nice. So we could be into something really nice here for Ethereum. So we'll have to continue watching it. What we're looking for again is the breakout above 2737. And then that could potentially play out this massive bull flag from here to here. And that gets us all the way up into the $4,000 range for Ethereum as well to the upside. However, if it does break to the downside, which we've been covering, there are some massive fair value gaps to fill all the way back into 1800.
Hey, bull runners, check this out. If you want to learn how to find the next 10x, 50x, or even 100x altcoin in this video, listen to this. Our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1 and is currently still up over 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000, and the bull run is just getting started. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University. Just go through the link in the description below, get in right now, watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers.